Hey, newsletter friends, Trevor here. It is so good to see you. I just thought I'd jump in your inbox here and share a little bit of a recap as to how my school year has started. You know, the last newsletter I sent you with a video such as this, I talked about some of my values that I bring to my practice each and every year. And I'm very interrogative of these values. They do shift over time a little, but these are values that I hold near and dear to my practice. And I am very intentional in showing up each and every day to my job, to my classroom, and for my scholars with these intentions at the heart of my planning and the heart of my interactions with them. And as you may recall from said video, I shared 5 values. One was I value student agency, I value curiosity, I value competency development, I value wellness, you know, their wellness and my wellness. And then finally, I value students becoming more assessment capable in their learning experience with me. And those values have definitely shown up in the first 4 weeks of my practice. And I wanted to share a little bit of a vignette as to how they are showing up. And I'm curious for you as you start your school year here in the Northern Hemisphere, my Southern Hemisphere friends, I know you just finished term 3 there in Australia, perhaps. I'm curious, how are your values showing up each and every day? Despite the noise and the pace of our practice sometimes and the way our schools operate, how are we settling in? How are we slowing down? And how are we mindful and how these values are steadfast in all decisions we make when it comes to interacting with our students and learning? So in my practice, really foundationally, I've been focused on building a community of learners in these first 4 weeks. And that looks like a lot of things. As you can remember from the previous video, it looks like getting to know my students really, really well. It looks like having them get to know me really well. And in turn, them getting to know themselves and one another. We are really building a classroom of collaboration, a classroom of safety, classroom of trust and openness, and dare I say, even a little vulnerability here in the first 4 weeks. As we build those relationships and that trust, students are definitely opening up. And one thing we've been focusing on, because this is going to be a through line to their inquiry experience, one thing we've been focusing on is creating an understanding and working towards developing particular competencies, dispositions, skills. These are the skills students will need to be more successful in taking on more agency over their learning. You know, the deeper end of the pool. In order to be successful there, we need to introduce these competencies, have them set personalized learning goals towards them, have them reflect on these competencies and gather evidence towards growth or tension within these competencies. And then, of course, highlight these competencies as they're experiencing them. You know, so in my design of lessons, in my unit design, in my creating learning experiences, I'm not just mindful of what students are learning, but how they are learning. And it's in the how of my lesson design that these competencies are going to bubble up. And so we've gone through quite an experience over the last couple of weeks in terms of this process of introducing these skills, creating a deeper understanding of these skills, and setting goals towards these skills. You know, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you can see some of this sharing. If you're not on Instagram, I'm going to suggest you go there because I do share videos such as this and artifacts from my classroom quite often at Trev_McKenzie. But I have been sharing this process, and this process sounds like this. I asked them, specifically high school students, so keep that in mind. I asked them, what are today's employers looking for in who they're hiring? What are the skills that today's economies require of us as working citizens? And my students said some really amazing things. And what's fascinating is here in British Columbia, Canada, in our curriculum, we have several competencies that students need to sharpen. They need to reflect on. There are a few that are mandated. I have to talk about them with kids. The students came up with those and a few more. And so in our practice, we've identified 7. These 7 are not unique to my classroom. I bet you if you're engaged in competency work, you're either chewing on similar ones or ones that are quite similar. We have critical thinking. I know some of you are going to grab a pen right now and pause the video, right? Critical thinking, curiosity, creativity, communication, collaboration, self-regulation, and empathy. Those are the 7. Aren't those amazing? And so students then created co-designed indicators of success towards each of these skills. I asked them, what does it look like and sound like, I feel like, if I were to see you being collaborative? And in small groups, they spilled out ideas, indicators, bullets, descriptors of what collaboration looks like, of what critical thinking looks like, of what curiosity looks like. Because as we know, these competencies, these dispositions, they have some depth to them. You just can't say, I turned and talked to a friend, therefore I am collaborative. There's a lot more to collaboration than that superficial touch point in terms of how we connect or when we connect. And so we wanted to create a certain depth of understanding together. And so these indicators, this list, all of these competencies have 10, 12, maybe 15 indicators attached to them now that are in student-friendly language that they've developed. Sometimes there are some things that they were missing. And so that's where I added in, I filled holes, so to speak. And this is a co-design process. So there are some indicators I suggested. There are some indicators that I demanded. And so now we have 7 competencies, indicators for each. And then students created these amazing competency posters. We went to a website called Noun Project, where you can download free icons. And so we just simply search in Noun Project a competency such as critical thinking, and they projected this icon right up to a piece of poster paper on the front whiteboard, and then they traced it, they colored it in, and then we posted these 7 posters in the class, and we attached the indicators to each poster. And then students set a personalized learning goal towards a single competency that's going to be their focus for this term. My students actually create really cute Bitmojis. You may be familiar with Bitmojis. They're like a cartoon avatar of yourself. And students created their own Bitmoji. They cut them out and put their name on them and then posted them to said 7 posters, whichever one was going to be their personalized learning goal. You know what that does for all of us in the classroom? It helps us support one another. At any given time in a lesson, I could look up to these posters and make a connection to how students are learning and what's relevant to them. I could go and sit with a student and I could say something very, very specific, intentional with regards to their learning and their goal and what we're engaging in and experiencing together right now. I could pause the whole class and draw all of our attention to one poster. I could pause the whole class and get them to reflect on their specific learning goal and how it's bubbling up today. I could pause the whole class and assign evidence. Everyone needs to gather evidence right now. You know what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to write a paragraph about your competency story from this week. Where did it bubble up? What was a strategy you utilized to flex that competency? What's a challenge you faced? Tell me that story. Give me a paragraph. I'll give you 20 minutes. Go. And then you know what we do? We add that evidence to their portfolio. Whatever your portfolio of choice is, we add that to their portfolio. And then come report card time, you know what we pull up? You know what we talk about when we have a report card conference? All this rich evidence that they've been gathering across a span of time as they work towards their personalized competency goal. So this isn't something that was done in a single lesson. This was not done in the first week. This has taken several touch points, several conversations. And as you can expect, as students are engaged in this work, they're actually flexing all those competencies. They're actually being collaborative in their small groups. They're sharpening their communication skills. And so one piece of evidence that I'm going to assign here in the next couple of days is let's reflect on the last couple of weeks in co-designing this community of learners that we are now a part of. Which of these competencies bubbled up? I want you to give me a couple sentences for each competency, and then we're going to add that to your portfolio. Isn't that fun? Isn't that engaging? Well, I tend to think so. I hope you think so too. I wanted to share that with you because I wanted to actually back up what I propose you could do as you start your school year. I wanted to invite you into my classroom a little bit so you can see the color, you can see what it looks like and sounds like and feels like. And I want you to feel like you can bring these conversations to your scholars and to your classroom and to your practice. If you are interested in furthering the conversations and the understandings and the growth towards competencies, I think this is a great way for you to consider doing so. So thank you for engaging me. I know this is a little bit long of a video, but I'd love to send more of these out throughout the year, a little vlog, if you will, a little snapshot of what's going on in my practice to invite you into some further work and inquiry, something relevant to you, and maybe we can find some common ground in this ongoing conversation that we find ourselves in. So thank you for your time, wherever you are. I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy, and I hope you're well. Bye for now.